The newly signed American Rescue Plan being put into action. President Biden signed the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package into law on Thursday, and the legislative victory for the president is already being felt by some Americans. Stimulus payments of up to $1,400 for individuals are showing up in bank accounts this morning. While the plan has the support of the majority of Americans, no Republicans in the closely divided Congress voted in favor of the bill.
So millions of people are eligible to receive larger than expected checks from the state. Some people may even get $2,000 in extra aid this year. And new information, including how to claim this bonus check, has also been announced. Just make sure to watch until the end to learn how to receive the stimulus payment. And eligible Americans can soon expect tax refunds from the Massachusetts state government that will be translated in higher than previously anticipated stimulus payments. What this means is that states are giving out their own stimulus checks. So refunds stipulated under a tax cap as collectively sending out $3 billion worth of stimulus payments to everybody across the country. Now, Governor Charlie Baker of Massachusetts has also said that refunds would amount to 13% of an individual's personal income tax liability. And the higher finalized figure from the Department of Revenue just reflects additional tax returns followed by the October 17th deadline. Eligible Massachusetts residents can use the state and the refund estimator tool by filling out their information online and like the income tax of their credits. Officials have said that refunds might be lower depending on intercepts, including unpaid taxes, unpaid child support, and other debts. Now, Massachusetts residents who earned $1 million in tax year 2021 can also expect up to $1,000 and $7,000 from a stimulus payment, everybody. That's around $500 than under the early estimate. Critics have pointed out that this bill disproportionately affects wealthier residents, as individuals with higher incomes stand to receive the larger checks. The revamped 14% metric will not translate into substantial gains for lower earners. It's a taxpayer who made $100,000 can expect to receive a credit of $700, and that's only $52 more than the earlier estimate under the 13% metric. So, for instance, folks, an individual who earned around $75,000 will see a return of $526, or only around $40 more than before the state updated its formula. And now no action is actually needed to secure the refunds. It caused a balloon surplus revenue as long as they already filed taxes and had a tax liability. Residents who have yet to file their tax returns and do so by September 15th will get a refund check by the end of next year, everybody. Now, let's not forget about this. California inflation relief cards are beginning to go out, and they're mailed out to people's mailboxes. It's one of the two ways that the payments, officially called the middle class tax refund, are getting to people. The other method is via direct deposit in your bank account. So, according to a spokesperson with the Franchise Tax Board, taxpayers who may have thought they would receive direct deposit are actually going to receive debit cards. Officials have said that we are finding that some taxpayers might have forgotten how they received Golden State stimulus, and then recollected it was by direct deposit. However, recipients must have filed their tax year by October 15th and have met certain income limits, and they were not as claimed as a dependent and were a California resident for 6 months. Now, you must also be a California resident to get the stimulus check. For instance, gas prices have been declining, and very slowly though. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of gas unleaded in the Golden State was around $5,000. That's less than Thursday's average of $5.50. So the current average is almost 93 cents cheaper than a month ago, when the drivers were paying around $7 more for a gallon of gas. So hopefully President Biden can get this under control.
You're not surely saying you're satisfied with gas prices. They're still dramatically higher than they were when the president came to office. We're in the middle, as everyone knows, of a recession. That's 2 quarters in a row of negative growth and 40-year high inflation. I can't think of anything the administration has failed to do to screw all this up. And look at what the American people think of their performance. It's stunningly high, the disapproval. Finally, I would say to our friend Joe Manchin, he made a terrible deal, how he can
of any of the last 4 recoveries. And we're also seeing that in terms of the strength of household balance sheets as well. Savings is up, debt is down, bankruptcy filings remain near pre-pandemic lows. All of these are sources of economic strength from which we can now focus on bringing prices down. The third point, this was an important piece of this, which is that
more states are offering new stimulus checks to their residents. $500 crisis aid payments are finally being mailed out. Top Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, are pushing for President Biden to send out federal inflation relief payments. So be sure to watch until the end of the video to find out how to receive the stimulus check. New Mexico residents will finally start to see relief payments hit their bank accounts and mailboxes. The governor announced the first round of payments will be sent this month. State officials say taxpayers who filed individual tax returns will see $250 and those who file jointly or as head of households will see $500. There is no income limit for those receiving the first and third rebates. Those who file a tax return do not need to do anything to receive their payment. Payments will come in the form of a direct deposit or by check, whichever was chosen on your tax return. But those who did not file a tax return will need to visit a state human services department to apply for the relief payments. And there are 2 more rounds of payments coming from New Mexico residents, one in July and one in August. There is an income limit for July payments, and thousands of low-income residents in Chicago have also moved one step closer to receiving free gas cards from the city. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's proposed Chicago Moves plan has finally received approval from the City Council and the Budget Committee. This paves the way for the mayor's gas card plan to get a vote from the full City Council. Mayor Lightfoot had to tweak her original Chicago Moves plan in order for it to be considered for a vote. The revised ordinance will be allocated for the $12.5 million gas card lottery for residents of the city's residents. The ordinance calls for distributing up to 100,000 prepaid transit cards and up to 50,000 prepaid gas cards. But the mayor's proposal did not receive overwhelming support from the Budget Committee. It passed by a vote of 15 to 12. Some officials who voted yes said they did so reluctantly. Progressive lawmakers would like to see President Biden also cancel student loan debt before November's midterm elections. The White House's latest plans calls for limiting debt forgiveness to Americans who earn less than $150,000 in the previous year, or less than $300,000 for married couples filing jointly. 2 of the people said it was unclear whether the Biden administration will simultaneously require interest and payments to resume at the end of August, when the current pause is scheduled to lapse. According to new data reports, Americans owe a staggering $1.7 trillion in college debt, mostly federal loans. That's nearly $500 billion more than auto loans and double the amount of outstanding credit card debt in the United States. Many in the Democratic Party's progressive wing have called on President Biden to cancel student loan debt before November's midterm.
The future is diverse. The future is blessed by so many children. I met today a little 13-year-old girl who was, and then high school student